Okay, moving on. Moving on after these two kings. Tore up the chat show. Moving on, brothers and sisters. It's my absolute delight. Dr. Walcott, can you turn on your camera, please? I just want to make sure you got time to turn on your camera so that we can see your beautiful face, even though you're not even in the UK right now, brother. The work you do is legendary. Dr. Mark Walcott, if you can turn on your video, that will be absolutely brilliant, brother. I think you'll find the video is in the bottom left-hand corner of your toolbar. Well, it's in my bottom left-hand corner, and it should say stop video or start video, brother. Just click on that, and that should give you a video screen. Brothers and sisters, I've got the divine pleasure of bringing on I call him my big brother, yeah? Dr. Mark Walcott. We know him as the conscious doctor, okay, brothers and sisters. He is, in my view, and I don't think the brother will disagree with me, in terms of the UK and in Europe, and he will match anyone in America, one of the top medical doctors that stand on the front line of freedom, justice, and equality. He is renowned. In 2 weeks' time, he's going to be on my platform on Hidden Truth. When you hear this brother tonight, you're going to rush to sign up to hear him again on, I believe it's the 9th of February. Is it 9th or is it the 16th of February? But it's on the website anyway. And every single Friday, 11 to, is it 4 or 5 o'clock, Doctor?
11 till 4.
11 to 4 o'clock. You'll find him on Conscious Radio every week. And my your little brother, the investigator, has a slot on his radio show. And I'm so honored, man. It's my highlight for the week, whereby we speak to over 70,000 people every single Friday. Every single Friday, Dr. Walcott and the investigator. But tonight, it's about him. I've known this brother for over 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years. And in that time, he has not skipped a heartbeat when it comes to the defense of freedom, justice, and equality. So, brother, I'm going to shut up now, big man. And I salute you on behalf of Hidden Science and Hidden Academy, Hidden Truth Academy. We thank you for being with us tonight, big brother.
Blessed love, bro. That was a wonderful introduction. You make it very difficult for me now to live up to that. But yes, bro, it's a long time we've been doing this. We've been doing what we're doing for over 30. I've been doing this for over 45 years. And only because I started really young at the age of 18, I was already in India. And so anyhow, I want to say thank you for the invite and acknowledgements to all the speakers and the panelists and the participants, I should say. And I've been blown away by the speakers, especially Sister Samantha, who repeatedly, with her humility and modesty, you know, kind of cows down that I'm not really a medical doctor and I can't, and that is legally the way to project herself. And so she's obviously been in the field a long time and know how to conduct herself, even though she knows so much. She knows more about sickle cell anemia than many doctors, and for a very simple reason, they're not treating it. There's no treatment for it. And so there's not much knowledge in their heads about what to do about it. She knows lots. The other brother, and I need to do this acknowledgement, the other brother that spoke, KRISTOS and all the others, it was, I've sat here and I thought, if I hadn't studied for all this time, if I was a young doctor, I'd be stuck to come up with anything else additional to the things they've mentioned. They've done such a great job. So I want to say thanks for that, and I'm proud of all of you. You know, Brother Andrew, I want to also say before I start, brother, you are anointed right now, and I love you, my brother, you know, and you are a superhero, and I notice you're spending a lot of time raising the consciousness of our people, giving us the sirs and giving us the big up, but I want to big you up and say what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. If you keep going on like that, I can't use any imagination to project where we will be as a nation. So hail to you, my brother. So, okay, so anemia is what I'm going to do in short is look at what can be done, because how we got here is like the story I've heard from a wise man who said that if you see someone drowning, drowning down the stream in the rushes, do you shout to them and say, how did you fall into the river? Was it from that tree, or did you slip from the bank? Or do you find something in some way to get them out of the river? Equally, if they speak another language, do you go and learn the other language? Or do you just find some way to sign language and do something to get them out of that predicament? And so sickle cell anemia is particularly like that, because we never did, and we're still not getting the help in those areas of Black people's health. How we got here, I've heard lots of wonderful descriptions of the genetic transmutation, and you can call it evolution if you like, and that we somehow was unable to produce red blood cells in some tribes and nations that was able to carry a full pint, if you like, of blood. And so you could say a sickle cell is like a half pint, for want of a better term. But having said that, leads us to the things that one can do if you only have half a pint. Now, the history of that goes back to what one of the brothers said, with how slowly that gene had transmutated and so forth. And there are other theories like the Africans that live near the seacoast and Indians that live near the seacoast. If you have ever seen the houses in any seacoast anywhere in the world, like Montego Bay, Ultra-Rios, you will see that the paint on the walls of those buildings, the paint on the burglar bars of those buildings, always corrode very quickly, quicker than houses that's inland. And so that told us that the environmental factors near the seacoast has a very aggressive, ability to strip things. And in this regard, after hundreds of years of living in that region, many of our people had our blood stripped, and particularly the iron is the aspect of the blood that suffered the most. And in long, time of having that, it became like a stamp and became a chronic characteristic of those particular people who lived in those regions. And then we started to produce other offsprings, and that produced that particular anomaly, irregularity with the red blood cell. So that could be one of the origins of where thalassemia and things like iron deficiency anemia. In short, there are many anemias. There's one called pernicious anemia. The reason I bring this one up, because there's many, we're not going to do them all. But pernicious anemia is now called B12 deficiency. And back in the day, pernicious anemia, B12 deficiency, was incurable and used to kill people. It was incurable. If you had it, you would die. And they discovered that it was actually B12 that was the fix. So in the case of sickle cell anemia, unfortunately, there will not be that type of fix by giving something that is half a pint worth of blood fix, or whatever factor in the blood fix, because it will only carry half a pint. Because of this, science has kind of turned their back on this incurable condition within the Black nation. And so what they've done lately is they've come up with a genetic theory, a genetic fix, if you like. And this genetic, engineering fix is by editing out the the gene which is causing the blood cells to be continuously formed in a sickle form, shape, and deficient in the components to carry oxygen. Like the brother explained, the hemoglobin. So that's kind of like if you only have half a stomach, you can't start eating food to fit a full stomach. You can't tell them you need to get, a full pint of iron so you can carry more oxygen. It's not going to work. So I think the future is going to be the genetic fix. If you want to have a normal full red blood cell, it will be a genetic fix. They've done it. They've actually done it. It was successful. I checked before coming on just now, and it's done. It was successful. They will improve that, and they will fix sickle cell anemia in the future very, very easily. Very, very easily. They've done it already. Now, I want to talk about very quickly what can be done. Like I said, just looking at what caused it and how we got here is not the thing for a doctor. It's how we get you out of the thing. So someone mentioned earlier breathing exercises, and it's so easy to overlook the power of breath. Now, if you think what it is that red blood cell does, anyway, the most vital prime objective of that red blood cell is to carry oxygen. There's loads of other things it does, but oxygen is the most vital one, without which, if it doesn't do that, everything else fails. So we need to look at, if you only have a half a pint of a blood cell, you need to make sure that that half a pint is always filled to your maximum half a pint full, not less. That's one. And then because you're deficient of this hemoglobin iron, you need to make sure that you always have iron. So first one was oxygen. You need to learn to breathe better than the average person, more full breath than the average person, because it's oxygen that's going to be your problem. Due to this oxygen deficiency chronically in individuals with all anemias, every single anemia will have the symptoms I'm about to outline. And they will be difficulty in concentration, difficulty for focusing, a little bit slowed down with reading things and trying to coordinate what it's saying, and things like coping mechanisms, because to have lots of children and they're making noise, it becomes more disturbing for someone who has anemia, any anemia, including sickle cell anemia. Becomes more difficult for them. Memory issues, because you need blood with lots of oxygen to oxygenate the brain, circulate the brain, ventilate the brain, and indeed the rest of the body. But we want to start with the brain because that's where you have your cognitive function. This is where people who suffer with sickle cell anemia often will suffer with depression. And I say this today, someone said to me that when you come on, can you say something that we've never heard before? And if I haven't already done that, then this may be it. I have deemed a type of depression a chemical depression. It's not a true depression. It's a chemical depression, which means if you give the body those deficiencies, supplement them, you'll find the depression goes. The actual biochemical substances that will cause a chemical depression would be all the B complexes, all of the Bs, and especially B12 and iron. So let me see, B1, B2, B6, B12, iron, those deficient will cause any individual, especially females, to have depression, what I call a chemical depression. Therefore, people with sickle cell anemia is going to have this almost as a given. So there'll be a given type of low spirit that they get because they're low in oxygen. So let's go straight into, because someone said earlier that a sickle cell sufferer knows more than a doctor, and it's true. So I'm not going to start continue talking about any of it as if I know more than sickle cell sufferers. But I'm going to go into this. It therefore stands to reason that sickle cell sufferers need to find a way to increase the way they use oxygen, because it's typical of them that when the sun goes down, sickle cell sufferers go down. That's another element. That's the metaphysical aspect. Sun gives us energy. Sunrise, we rise up, midday, the zenith of the sun, perfect digestion and energy. Sun goes down, we all start to go down. Sickle cell sufferers will feel that, and people with anemia will feel that very, very, prominently in their lives. They'll leave the clothes on the chair and crash. The dishes in the sink will stay there till tomorrow. The energy's down, the switch is off, the sun is down. So one of the secret methods of overcoming some of these discrepancies with oxygen deficiency, tiredness, someone mentioned fibromyalgia. They get pains in the legs because of the sickle and the sickle blood having this locked formation in the feet and difficulty in rising back up because of the blood having some kind of what you call a gridlock in the blood vessels. And so breathing exercises would probably be the biggest key secret to every single sickle cell sufferer, because it's oxygen that you need. And you have to teach your body to use that half pint of blood oxygen you've got to do the same thing that everyone with a full pint of blood does. And that can be done. It's doable, it's realizable. Just like we see people who lose one limb and they somehow find a way to balance and do things with things that people with both limbs can't do. And I'm a big believer in that we need to push the spirit, of our abilities and our can do to achieve things with less limbs, less functions, less senses, and do more than people who have full everything can do. And I just believe that's the start with people who have this sickle cell condition. That's the start, is to accept that you're going to have to master using what you have to achieve the same thing that everybody gets. And I think breathing, as you saw that brother just explained, breathing is the key to this, because most people do shallow breathing. So I would say every sickle cell sufferer should do full breath breathing and master breath. The art of breathing is called pranayama. I highly recommend that Sister Samantha, and she's doing an absolutely fantastic job. I recommend that she gets someone who will train at least a group of sickle cell sufferers into pranayama in depth. Start beginning, but go into depth, that we can then show through data that they're managing to overcome many of the symptoms with cognition, coordination, brain ventilation, circulation, and so forth. They can prove that they've improved those areas just by doing pranayama. And that would be an improvement for the world of people that suffer with sickle cell anemia. They would all have to do pranayama to counteract the fact that the half of the pint that's not going to be able to take oxygen. They've found a way to make that half pint. It's called reframing. It's called reframing. The pint is not half full. It's half full with water, and the other half is filled with oxygen. We find a way to make it a full pint some way, somehow, with positivity. And that's done with breath. So we should investigate how to go further into pranayama, and then exercise. The brother mentioned the process of the bones and weak bones and stuff like that, pain in the bones. bone density is going to go with problems like sickle cell anemia. It's impossible to have perfect bone density if you have a discrepancy with your blood. But also, by the same token, this is where you would do something that then compensates for that. So exercise, like using the rebounder, skipping, increases bone density. So every sickle cell sufferer should do exercise where they spring up in the air against gravity so that they drain lymphatics, strengthen the bones. It's not too hard on the floor because you get pain sometimes. On a rebounder, the trampoline, it will drain the lymphatics, improve circulation, and strengthen muscle as well. And it's great for ladies because it safeguards ladies from having all this breast cancer that's epidemic because of blockage of the lymphatic vessels and diet and stuff. But at least you get the lymphatics clear and circulation. So, you know, people who suffer this would get a lot more relief. So that's some of the things that we can do. I think supplements is always going to be, you know, one of the panaceas. It's going to be the key one. But till today, 2021, we've still seen a problem with the body absorbing this abnormal substance called ferrous sulfate. Excuse me. Ferrous sulfate is the typical iron given for sickle cell sufferers. And when it's really severe, then of course it's transfusion. While we're on the subject of transfusion, since you're always getting these type of treatments like transfusion, I would highly recommend that when you get your transfused blood, that you do everything within your powers, and I use the word powers, to get that blood to adjust to you. Because just like having someone's heart or having someone's limb or anything on your body, these days they even give the body an injection to help the body to adapt. So I say they haven't got to that stage with blood transfusion, but I'm saying the individual needs to do that. And you can do that by vitalizing your water, because the water will form plasma in the blood. Vitalize your water by using the techniques of putting your consciousness, whether it's a prayer or write a label on the bottle, and with the frequency of your thought, it will affect the water. It's called hidden images, hidden messages in water. And this has been proven scientifically that if you speak something beautiful like love into the water, or something like heal me, or write on the bottle love, then they've been able to take pictures and see that with words which are centered around love and healing, that they have this beautiful, symmetrical, crystalline patterns. And when it's something like hate, you know, and war, then we see this asymmetrical, very morbid looking patterns. And so it tells us that we can change the structure of water. Water has memory. And this is one way when you have transfusion, every bottle of water you drink, you put your energy, your consciousness, your positive prayer, and whatever it is you can do with your power into the water. It works. And so just like you pray before you have a meal to sanctify the meal, I'm recommending that you sanctify the blood you've been given by getting the water with your prayers in it to change the frequency to you. Otherwise, there have been studies that people who have coffee addictions, when they give their blood and someone takes that transfusion, they find they have a craving for coffee and so forth and so forth. You can imagine the other things. We carry everything in our blood, our good things and our bad things. And so I'm just saying, there's food for thought, that when you do these blood transfusions, since you do them so frequently, I would apply this type of what would you call it? Some type of practice, some type of discipline, some sort of, something you can implement that you practice, like saying a prayer before you eat your meal. And don't just take people's blood and just take it like you eat food without giving thanks. You're going to take it, but you're going to cleanse that blood with your thoughts as you receive it to adjust to yourself. I'd also say to exercise after, not immediately after, but to exercise after transfusion will help your body to find that equilibrium and balance. So that I think is important. And then, of course, diet. Dr. Sebi, our great master, who said, careful what you eat, otherwise it might eat you. He said a lot about how we use iron, how we take iron, and ferrous sulfate is metal. And so your body doesn't like it. Your body doesn't acknowledge it as organic. And so it's constantly being rejected all over the place in the liver. It causes liver issues, toxicosis in the liver, and it causes constipation. It can cause all sorts of stuff because it's a metal. And so I recommend that, and don't misunderstand me, some sufferers have to take ferrous sulfate and just deal with the, collateral damage, as they would say, because it's the best of a bad bargain, that you have to get some iron. But I'm saying I believe that it's better if you do your best, as long as you're not in a crisis, to get good quality iron from an organic source. And that would be something like sea moss, very deep green vegetables. Spirulina is an absolute must. Every sickle cell sufferer should take, spirulina and chlorella. Spirulina and chlorella are probably the two most powerful superfoods, having most of the nutrients and stuff naturally, including iron and selenium, magnesium, calcium, zinc, all these things in a most simple form as spirulina. There's no food known to man that's as simple as spirulina. It's one cell. Therefore, when your body gets it, even though it's just having a sickle issue, a half pint, if you like, of blood, it will be able to get the maximum type of quality blood to fill that half pint. And, I hope my half pint example is not in any way, any kind of pun or, discredit to people who suffer with sickle cell anemia. It's just to give the idea that you're not going to have a full pint. And so taking too much iron, for example, is not good, because your cell can't take it. But I'm saying if you are going to take iron, at least get very good quality iron. I recommend an iron called Spartone liquid iron. And I also recommend boiling green bananas in the skin and drinking the black water, storing it in the fridge, mixing that water with the Spartone. I also highly recommend that taking iron for sickle cell individuals, that they should take iron with vitamin C, because the vitamin C synergistically, which means it helps to be absorbed in the body more effortlessly. And so, yes, my brother?
You've got 1 minute left, King.
Okay, bro, I'll do it. So you bind vitamin C with the iron that you take so that you get the maximum iron out of whatever it is you're taking. If you don't, you actually lose the iron in your urine, you lose the iron in your stool. So to take the max, you can't afford to do that. So you need to maximize the iron you do take vitamin C. And take vitamin C powder or some, I'd take vitamin C powder to make sure you get the best. Change your diet to a vegan diet, stroke vegetarian, to keep it alkaline, to reduce toxins and acids, which will strain your body, give your body too much work to do. Get yourself one of these rebounders and start doing the rebounding exercise. And also, my clinic in Haringey is Medipar Clinic. And so for assistance with any impact from having sickle cell anemia, especially in this time where you can't go to the hospitals as it's so threatening. MediPark Clinic, we have phlebotomists who take blood. We also have gynecologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, a couple of GPs, myself, and lots of others. We've got about 10 doctors there. This is in 573 Green Lanes. That's London N8 0 Romeo Lima. And we're there to give you assistance with all the different things that impact from having, sickle cell anemia. But I think the speakers, their contribution was second to none. So thank you for having me. And that was MediPark Clinic, MEDI-PARK Park Clinic. We do the PCR tests. We do tests and ultrasound for all conditions. And we send off blood to TDL, the doctor's lab, for every single blood test you can think of. The same ones they do in the hospital, we do them. We get them back in 24 hours, not 3 weeks. So there you have it.
Dr. Mark, I warned all of you. I warned all of you about this, brother. This is it. That's all I'm going to say to you. Salute the crowd. That's right, Dr. Mark. General, salute the crowd, King. What more can I say? We've had several people in the chat line, brother, that stated that they've been to your clinic and you've cured them and you've treated things that other people could not even ascertain. We've got a sister, Alison Gilbert, that says, great explanation. Chanel says, brilliant analogy. Sonia Williams says, my sister just started taking Dr. Mark's bitter drinks, and she said the positive effects were almost
instantaneous.
Instantaneous. Sorry, big brother. I'm just getting too excited, brother. This has been crazy, brother. We thank you so much. We got some Q&A.
My brother, my beloved brother. This happened to me before. I've done this the second time now. Sister Samantha must be laughing her head off. My brother. Maybe Sister Samantha, if she doesn't mind, I'd prefer if she tells a story. I have a tonic called Miracle Tonic, and maybe it's good that I forgot, because maybe people think I'm trying to promote my tonic. But actually, Sister Samantha has an absolutely phenomenal story where someone got her a bottle, a mutual friend. Sister Samantha, do you mind? Do you know, Sister Samantha, you asked me, blesses my sister, you asked me to come and speak at one of your gatherings. I did exactly the same thing. I spoke, came off, you went on and you said, by the way, Dr. Walker forgot to mention his tonic. So I'm going to mention it for him. You're going to have to do it again, please. Thank you.
I'll do it very quickly. I have to admit, right, so I learned about the tonic through my sister, another community queen, Sister Kemet, who's on the call, one love sis. And she told me about the tonic, and she got me a bottle from you. That's how it all started. And I have to say, like my eyes, because I have issues like with the sickling in the eyes, I could see, a lot better, right? I was sitting up straighter, but it cleansed me, and it was strengthening. You can feel the strength. I'll tell you the thing, it tastes bad. It's an acquired taste. It's a shock. It's a shock, but the benefits are second to none. And I promote it, and I advise people, whether you have sickle cell or not, but especially if you do have sickle cell, to invest in your health. Invest. If not everything come free, prescription drug is good. Invest in your health.
How much did you take, sister? Because your story was the first time I heard anyone take that much of the Miracle Tonic. Please.
Yeah. When I first started taking it, I was just like, and I went through about 2 or 3 bottles in I can't remember what it was at first, and you were saying, no, you don't have to drink so much. I remember that, but I just wanted it in my system. I could feel it, and I could feel the benefits of it. I could see the benefits.
But didn't you say that you didn't have a crisis?
Yeah, I didn't have any sickling pains during the time I was taking it. I have to admit, I haven't had it for a while. After you get better, you sort of forget what made you well. you know, and then you know, so I need to seeing you and talking to you. I've been putting it in the chat, so I need to get my bottles. I'll be getting some more, you know. So thank you, brother. Thank you.
Bless you, bless you. That's brilliant.
We've got several people that like to ask questions. Because of the time, they're going to ask their questions directly to you, my brother, if that's okay with you. Okay. And if you can answer as succinct as possible, we can get through as many questions. Fantastic, brother. Okay, my king, thank you so much. If we can run through these as quick as possible. Brothers and sisters, if you could ask your direct question to our eminent guest, brother. As I said, I've known him for 30 years. Okay, Sister Susan Rowe is a big-time community activist. She's a member of the Lewisham Education Group, a fantastic sister. I didn't realize that she was on this hookup, and so I'm really happy and glad that she's here. Sister Susan, can you ask your question directly to the doctor? And doctor, if we can answer as succinct as possible.
Certainly, will do.
Good evening to everybody, and thank you so much, Brother Andrew, for this platform. My daughter's actually a sickle cell trait, and we lived in Florida for many years. She was fine. I brought her to the UK, and she has then suffered with what they call chemical depression. When I was listening to you talk, it was textbook everything. She has small blood cells, she has oxygen issues. And yesterday, after her going through a depressed episode for a couple of days, I was just begging God for some help. And just listening to you, it was just like the light switches on. I've got the address details, I've got the phone number. I've just finished texting her, and I'm just like, girl, we're going to do this. So in fact, I'm not so much of a question, but quickly, my daughter actually worked at King's College Hospital as part of her training before she went to uni, and she worked in the sickle cell unit with Dr. McBean and a lot of professors. Weirdly enough, they looked at sickle cell completely different than how we do. They looked at it very much in a more experimental for using it for other treatment of other diseases, and they looked at us as a wonderful evolution of science rather than the effects of what it does to us. Love you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Laurie. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, sisters, as I say, she's a long time, beautiful sister. Just love her.
Beautiful sister, beautiful sister, beautiful sister, beautiful sister.
Beautiful.
How old is your daughter? How old is your daughter?
She's now 23, but the whole
You don't have a 23-year-old. Wow.
Actually, I have a 35-year-old, and I'm a grandma.
Amazing, amazing.
But yeah, she actually coming back about a year after coming back. That's when the depression hit, and it was just so weird because we couldn't understand why. But listening to you with the whole B12 deficiency, lack of oxygen, the whole 9 yards, it's just amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Make sure she contacts me. I will help her.
Oh, I'll be contacting you. Okay. Oh, yes.
Okay, we've got to move on. We've got to move on, brothers and sisters. Susan, you always know how to ignite the whole place. Thank you for your stuff. Diane Wilson. Diane Wilson, can you unmute yourself, Sister Diane Wilson? Can you unmute yourself and ask your question if you are available, Sister Diane Wilson? In the meantime, Sister Georgia Davis, can you unmute yourself? If Diane is taking a little bit of time, Sister Georgia Davis, you're now a panelist. You can unmute yourself. Charmaine Fife, can you unmute yourself? And Simone McCarthy and Tokumbo Samuel, can you unmute yourself and ask your questions, please? There may be a little bit of technical difficulties. They are panelists now. Oh, Tokumbo, fantastic, sister. Could you ask your question, my queen?
Hi, yeah, while I was listening to the doctor, he did speak about breathing exercises, oxygen and iron, but like most sicklers like myself who already have iron overload, and he didn't really speak about that, and I wanted to find out, because a lot of us already know that we have that problem. I'm on transfusions regularly. I already have high iron overload, so I stay away from anything that's got iron in it. So how can you answer that when it comes to iron?
Okay, so that's quite easy, if you don't mind me saying. So the reason you have iron overload is for the very things you just mentioned. You're getting blood transfusion, you're getting blood infusion.
Yeah.
So those are the most extreme ways of taking iron. And because, as I said, if you have half a pint, but they're flooding you with iron, your body can only take so much. And then, and I'm very sorry to say this, but sickle cell sufferers who take those, have those, you know, what do you call modalities of treatment, which they do have to get, unfortunately, have to suffer. Toxicosis.
It's not something I've ever wanted, and I would say it's something that was forced on me. It was something that was forced on me.
The answer to your question, sister. So first of all, you have toxic blood with iron because the infusion and the transfusion. But for the general just maintenance of iron of those who have not got transfusion, they haven't had a crisis, they're getting on quite well, they're exercising, and they don't want to backslide into that gutter by just going downhill by getting completely depleted of iron. And so I would say that sickle cell sufferers should never, I'm not talking about the ones that get transfusion and infusion, because that's when it gets extreme due to having a crisis. I'm talking about the maintenance of having a sickle cell sufferer that's now on the path of returning to what you could call normal. They've not had transfusion for months, they haven't had transfusion for months, and they're getting there. They need to keep supplementing themselves with really good quality iron, not ferrous sulfate, but go for the Dr. Sebi's iron, which comes from nature, comes from spirulina, chlorella, all these green things with the photosynthesis from the sun. The reason for that is your body will identify the phytonutrients and the minerals from these substances more than it will from ferrous sulfate. It will just say, yum, yum, we recognize you, welcome home to that iron, as opposed to a piece of metal. That's all.
What if I decide to stop the transfusions? Although I did try to stop them at a point, but it could make things worse. What if I decide to stop them?
Sister, we're going to have to move on. So we're going to have to move on. We did say one question, but sister, thank you for your question, because it goes.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
No, don't apologize, my queen.
No. Okay.
Because it's personal to you, and that is beautiful, sister.
Exactly.
Please, sister, because you know you're one of our queens in our society. Please follow this up with Dr. Walcott. He's given us his details, his surgery. Please follow up. Simone McCarthy, can you ask your question, please?
Hi, I've got sickle cell. I haven't had a sickle crisis for 13 years, but as a child,
well done.
Thanks. And as a child growing up, I used to have blood transfusions. So now I have iron overload because they never used to use that medication to take it out. So is there any way of being able to reduce the iron overload?
Yeah, of course. So that's what the sister previous just was trying to say about. You're the example I was looking for, someone who's not having transfusions as regular as before and getting back on what could be a normal life. And so you're going to have to take iron, but if you have an iron overload, one of the ways to exit iron from the body or anything that's in the overload is drinking lots of water and keeping the body alkaline. An alkaline body is the one. And eating a diet, this is the one as well, following a diet that doesn't cause the retention of iron. That diet is going to be meat-free, okay? It's going to be vegan, vegetarian. And then, of course, if you eat meat and you've got an iron overload, you're self-harming. You're self-harming if you've got iron overload and then your diet's filled with meat. So you've got to reduce proteins in your intake, your diet, and go for vegan, go for, the couscous, go for bulgur, go for green vegetables, go for broccoli, because they're not going to harm you as like the iron and meat with liver and all of that stuff. and drinks that are highly loaded with iron, like Guinness and stuff like that, avoid them. Anything with iron, and exercise. If you exercise, you're going to get the best way of moving that excess iron out of your blood through exercise and water.
Thank you.
Simone, thank you so much for that question, my queen. Thank you so much. Okay, last shout out, because you know, we're going slightly over time, but the buzz is still fantastic in this place, man. That's what happens when you got so many melanated people coming together. We've still got over 500 of you still online, which is absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to give last shout out to Sister Charmaine. If you can unmute yourself, if you still need to ask your question. Sister Diane Wilson and Georgia Davis, if you're able to unmute yourself, please do so in the next 3 seconds, else we'll have to move on with our program. Dr. Mark Walcott is known as the conscious doctor, brothers and sisters. And believe me, the authorities know he does not play. You know, when we try to get any other doctors, black doctors, none of them speak like this brother. Not one of them are qualified as this brother, a strong warrior, okay, but yet academically excellent. So Diane, Charmaine, Georgia, I've tried to give you a little bit of time to see whether your systems are working. We'll have to move on. Brother Doctor, can I just say, beloved, before I bring on Brother Leon Marshall, Brother Doctor, words cannot explain, brother, our love for you. You know, Samantha Greaves laid down a fantastic foundation. Our 2 physiotherapists came in and blew the game on top of her. But brother, what you are doing and what you have done fearlessly, I'll say that one more time, fearlessly, brother, you've been made a special way. The universe there's no accidents in the universe. You have been made a special way. And I pray, brother, the only thing I'm praying for you to do now is to make more like you, to multiply your mind, your heart, and your spirit for the next generation. We can't let you go and that's it. We need you. We need you. Brother Leon Marshall, please.
Bro, some things just come into me I need to say. Is that sister who mentioned, and all the other sisters and people suffering with sickle cell, that actually that question about how to get the excess out of the body is really an important question, and something has come. I have a smoothie known as a Dr. Mark's smoothie to many people. And by the way, that smoothie is probably one of the most powerful ways to take iron or any metal out of the body. It's made with cucumbers, spirulina, chlorella, moringa, apples, bottled water, and then you can sweeten it with honey or molasses. But the reason why it's the most powerful thing for taking metals, including iron, out of the body for excess overload is because of that one called chlorella. Chlorella is the greenest substance known to man. That's why the word chlorella comes from the word chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the green we see in all plants. Chlorophyll, you can buy chlorophyll, and if you use chlorophyll, chlorella, spirulina, it has the ability to remove metals from the blood and the body like no other substance on earth. So I highly recommend, and I'm glad I remember this, that if you take spirulina, chlorella, moringa, and the things I just mentioned, that will be the most powerful way. And I'd recommend that first thing in the morning to break your fast, so it gets right into the blood without trying to go through the cornmeal porridge and the oats porridge and the dumpling them. It just goes straight into your bloodstream. So if you want that formula, you can text me, you can contact me, and you can have it and use it. It will help. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikey. Put your ones in the chat room. Put your ones in the chat room. Look, when a man like KRISTOS turns on his camera and he's clapping, you know you've done the universe proud, man. KRISTOS doesn't play. You understand that, King? So when KRISTOS is clapping you and smiling like that, jeez.
Lift up on Babylon.
Brilliant, man. It's brilliant.